Ladies and gentlemen of Bachelor Nation, we have breaking news to report out there. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. Breaking news, Bachelor Nation, breaking news. Clayton Echard wins big today. That's right. It was an injunction against harassment. We're going to get into what that means, but there was a court case that was ongoing from last week, I believe 8 days ago. And forgive me for not having all of my facilities available here as I'm recording this live from the basement of the in-laws. We have breaking news that Clayton has won his court case against Jane Doe. It's all public records in Maricopa County at the what I believe to be Superior Court. I'm not going to share with anybody any hard evidence right now, just the conversations that I've had, and what a wild day it was. The live stream was shut down, presumably by Jane Doe. Last week, the live stream happened, and it was probably a surprise. I know for a fact it was a surprise to Clayton Echard. He didn't know that this was going to be live streamed. He's been alone in the dark this whole process, not able to share things. We've redacted information that we had in the Driving with Dave episodes. Last week, 8 days ago, he began this injunction against harassment. Between then and now, he has actually lost. So let's break this down. Today is Thursday? So I believe it was last Wednesday. I could have my dates wrong. It might have been Tuesday, okay? He began this injunction against harassment lawsuit, which was basically him telling the court why he wants her to stop contacting him, and her telling the court why she wants her to stop. It was him telling the court why he wants her to stop contacting him, and her telling the court why she wants him to stop contacting her. Did we get all that? Did that break anyone's brain? So that's what was going on. Now, he was unrepresented last week. He thought he could handle it, maybe didn't have the funds to have a big-time lawyer represent him, and just said, hey, you know what? I'll come with the facts. And as we watched it all play out last week, there was anything but what I think people feel like was a fair fight. There was just a number of instances where Clayton had whatever he was trying to say shot down through objections. And, that might be fair. That might be the fair way things are done in the courtroom, but what Clayton had this time was he had people by his side that knew how to cross-examine. So the bulk of today's case, I believe, was the cross-examining of Jane Doe here and the sort of, evidence whether or not she was harassing him. As it's reported, and again, we're going to get all the facts, but it seems as though the judge wasn't buying her case, that a number of emails were sent to Clayton after he said, stop contacting me. And I believe, and again, we're going to get to the bottom of this, but I believe there were multiple phone numbers and emails used to contact Clayton. Well, in winning his injunction against harassment, I'm going to let you guys know what exactly that means. I'll tell you this. The case is publicly accessible. In the past, we've been told by Jane Doe that the case, her previous case, was one that was sealed. That's why no one had a chance to access it. We found out that case is not sealed. Actually, it's very hard for a case to get sealed. In Arizona, there's the constitutional right, which is Arizona Article 2, Section 11, to have public access to these documents. And now it doesn't mean you can just click and watch them on a YouTube video. It means you might have to go and access them. They hand you the documents. It still can be a slow process. We know that Jane Doe's attorney filed paperwork as it's done, and this isn't necessarily rare, but to have video from last week, the one of which clip I'm about to share with you, sealed. We also know that the judge denied those requests. Now, folks, I understand Jane Doe came at me and said, you know what, Dave, you're no real journalist, and I don't doubt that. I'm just a greasy-haired Irishman who tells jokes on stage. But nobody, and I repeat, nobody publicly wanted to cover this. And now, credit to Reality Steve Carbone. Credit to those that did talk about it. But nobody wanted their name on this. People were afraid to make donations. And again, and she might say, why are people so afraid of me? They don't want to get their own, battles drawn out in court like I don't. And I'm fully expecting my lawyer probably tonight. Maybe they do a 2-for-1 at the courthouse. I don't know how it works, but I'm fully expecting my lawyer to receive paperwork that I will be served a temporary restraining order, that I will be issued an injunction against harassment, that I am going to have to fight the same fight that Clayton fought. Mark my words, we're not going into it without proper, professional, and powerful legal representation. Mark my words, we're not going into it without dozens of people that have helped acquire evidence, that have helped cross-examine in publicly submitted documents, whether through uploads on Dropbox or sent to Reddit. I am no genius. This ain't legally blonde. This is legally brunette over here, okay? The old cowlick esquire. But I'm telling you right now, I don't claim to be an expert, but I do know a thing about speaking the truth. And what we've been searching for is the truth. And in an attempt to seal these documents, it's an attempt to hide the truth and hide what actually happened. Too often, one can win a temporary restraining order against someone else and then claim that they're in the right because they won the restraining order. And then if I am someone who says, well, courts normally side with the women in a restraining order case because it's out of an abundance of caution and no judge wants to deny a request and then some tragic thing happens, I totally understand that. The collateral damage that is done because of the court system erring on the side of in the abundant side of caution is people like Clayton, who get sucked into this, who really don't need a protective order against them. Mark my words, in a separate case, the day after this case began last week, in a separate case, Clayton lost. Now, Jane Doe said, Dave, you aren't covering the fact that I beat Clayton. Clayton lost. She beat Clayton on the order of protection, which had a different judge, a male judge, and then this judge was a female judge. And again, gender of judge doesn't really matter per se, but in a case like this, where one party, Clayton, is saying 1,000%, that's not my baby. Those aren't my babies if she's having twins. I don't believe she's pregnant. Again, Clayton says, I don't believe she's pregnant, but if she is, it isn't with my kid. So she might have gotten pregnant after me or before me, but not because of me. But of course, when she took the first test, it said no signs of fetal DNA. Could the fetal DNA have sprung up? Maybe they were hiding behind an ovary. I'm not a biologist. I don't know how it all works, right, folks? But either way, I'm going to read for you the order of injunction, I'm going to read for you just exactly what goes down here with the order of protection and injunction against harassment. They seem to be similar, in order of protection being something you get against a former lover or use the term lover loosely, ex-fling, versus an injunction of harassment like someone like against me would be someone that is not a former lover. If you wish to obtain an order of protection or an injunction against harassment against a juvenile who is currently in secure care, okay, that's not us. An order of protection is a legal restraint used to prohibit a person from committing an act of domestic violence. Okay, so of course, these systems are in place to protect people, absolutely. An injunction against harassment orders a person to stop harassing, annoying, or alarming another person. Now, have I ever initiated an email to Jane Doe? Well, I don't believe so. I mean, you could find one time where I was like, hey, just so you know, my lawyer's here if you want to contact them. Sure, maybe. But every single time, especially after I asked her to stop contacting me, she has sent what I believe to be manic email after manic email. Diatribes, manifestos, just free-form thought, threats. I'm going to sue you. I'm going to, defamation, civil case. This is going to happen. How dare you? My dad, this, just one thing after another. Things that are not pertinent, mischaracterizations, things like that. Things like anyone in a critical mind can look at and go, hey, let's just not even respond to this. So I've asked her to stop talking to me or emailing me and quit flirting with me, please. I know I put some lotion in my hair, but come on, calm down. I'm married. Come on, leave me alone. But either way, am I harassing this person? Well, I guess that's up to a judge to decide. I'm trying my best to report objectively, and you might go, well, there's nothing objective here. Well, I've got my opinions based on the information I've seen that show me that Clayton is a person who hasn't lied throughout this process. I'm willing to change those opinions if information comes out, which just hasn't made my doorstep. A relationship does not have to exist between the two parties, as is required with an order of protection. Provided is a sample form for both the order of protection, so then they have sample forms. We can dive into that more later on. It's time for dinner over here. But I will say this. Clayton at least now can rest assured knowing that if she Jane Doe reaches out to him, I'm assuming digitally, I'm assuming through DM, through email, in any sort of way, he can rest assured knowing she would violate this injunction against harassment and be arrested. I mean, that's some pretty wild stuff, folks. Some pretty wild stuff. So we don't have clips of what happened in court today, but here is a quick clip of Clayton and his conviction. I shared this earlier, but if you haven't seen that, here's a quick clip of last week. Again, she has filed to have this sealed. It was rejected, denied by the judge. So clearly the judge wants this truth out there. And, you know, we dabble the line between commentary channel, opinion channel, but also in some cases that also can lead to reporting. And, you know, it's important for us to be descriptive as possible when knowing we're having an opinion channel like, oh, what did Tasha wear on the red carpet versus something like this, which sadly, companies that are spineless, People Magazine, Us Weekly, these companies want nothing to deal with any articles of substance. They just want to know who wore it best on the red carpet. And while the Sun took pleasure in sharing this story the first time, we call it this little Pearl Harbor incident, with all due respect to victims of Pearl Harbor, it being Clayton's Pearl Harbor, in that he woke up to finding out she was calling Scottsdale police, and he woke up to finding out she was going public, and that she redacted information that proved he only had oral sex, and all these other things that happened. While she's busy taking every word I say and time-stamping it and finding ways that I'm defaming her, what we're busy doing is elevating the truth. Here's what Clayton had to say about his opinion about what the heck is going down.
In public and stated, I signed up for a prenatal paternity test. Now she needs to schedule her part. I then placed that upon her to schedule her portion. And then, as people knew that she had to schedule it, she then scheduled. But the test came back, little to no fetal DNA.
So he's going off of the test that said little to no fetal DNA. And then, of course, he says, we have yet to receive the second test. I mean, how can it be harassing? Can we just wait for the truth to come out? Now, I, for one, would love to wait for the truth to come out. But in that process of waiting for the truth to come out, the can just keeps getting kicked down the road and down the road. And it's all about recorrecting information that's been put out there that is not true. And I think this is one of the ways in which she's able to win a lot of these cases. Is a lot of them are done in family court. So they're done where she's given the benefit of the doubt, where why would anyone be lying about a pregnancy? And look, I am within my rights to question whether or not someone is telling the truth. Could you imagine getting sued for defamation because all I'm doing is questioning whether I believe someone? I don't believe you. Well, I'm suing you. Okay, I just don't believe you. But I provided you evidence. Well, but I looked at your evidence and it's like, this doesn't really line up. I've looked at some of your evidence and I've noticed that it's factually ripped off from previous things and that. So I think while it's scary to have someone have legal threats on you and puts us in a fight or flight mode, I think when we strip down all of the anger, all of the rage, all of the threats, we really find little substance behind the attacks being made.
It's going to come back the same thing. I do not believe, at this point, I'm not technically questioning that she's not pregnant, because I do believe she may have gotten pregnant to corroborate her story, but I 1,000% she does not believe that she's not 5 months pregnant with my twins.
So he says, I believe she is not 5 months pregnant with my twins. The last of the bombshell information I'll share with you right now is that it appears as part of the cross-examining that took place of Jane Doe. And again, I believe rightfully I could be sharing her name, but just to show, even though I'm allowed to share her name in this publicly shared court, just to show that I do care about her mental health, and I do. I want no harm sent her way. Total ceasefire as far as commenting on her podcasts or changing the Wikipedia page of her dad. I don't want any of that. I just want the truth to be out here, and she can live with the facts as they are, and she can, probably try not to do any of this again. But I will say this: it appears as though she was cross-examined, now that Clayton had an attorney that he brought with him, by a lady that looked very in depth into her pregnancy. So asked her a lot of very specific questions, got her to say a lot of things on the record, like finding out what her due date is. So now we know what her due date's going to be. We can send her roses, right? Maybe one of those Teddy Grahams or whatever, So that's part of this. You might say, well, in an injunction against harassment, what's the big deal? It's really kind of like Clayton's fine if she emails him, whatever. But what it does is it opens up the fact that she put things out, in the courtroom that if are not true would be considered perjury, right? So I don't know if she's pregnant or not. I don't know with 100% conviction whether it's Clayton's or not. Little to no fetal DNA. That's as far as we know so far. But what we do know is she has yet to prove in any way whatsoever, in any number of ways, that she is pregnant. It doesn't mean she's not, folks. It doesn't mean she's not. But she has yet to prove it. And I'm allowed, just like you are, to have my opinion on this matter. So congratulations to Clayton Echard for winning big today. Maybe that's the first of several victories he'll have if this goes any further. But it looks like he no longer has to worry about emails from her. Now, we've made accusations that somebody is behind a fake account that came onto my Patreon that was trying to cancel Clayton. If accounts like that are proven to be linked to others, would Clayton have a case of, to seek damages for missed opportunities and things like that? That is yet to be seen, and we'll have to watch all that play out. I'll be back tomorrow with more of this content. We'll probably be getting audio, video, and other information and incredible sound bites. As far as I know, it is going to be wild as we watch this all play out. In the meantime, pop that champagne, Big Clayton, do your TikTok dances, and enjoy the rest of the evening. All right, folks, we'll be back tomorrow. Bye now.